Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's Getting Started webinar, Website Building 101. Totally said that backwards, with WordPress.com. My name is Tanya. I'm a happiness engineer here at WordPress.com. I've been with WordPress now for just over 3.5 years. Time flies. I am located in Alberta, Canada. Calgary area, actually. And I saw in the chat box there, I saw somebody was from Alberta. So hello, fellow Albertan. But all over the world we've got here today, which is fabulous. Like we've got Egypt, we've got the UK, we've got Finland, we've got all kinds of different states, Texas and California, and I can't read fast enough, Florida. Yeah, Netherlands, all over. This is absolutely fabulous. It is lovely to see you. Thank you for saying your hellos in the chat box. More coming in. Northern Indiana, another part of Canada. This is just, it's lovely. I love it so much. All right, so I have a bit of a surprise for you guys today. If you have attended our webinars before, you're going to find that this one runs a little bit differently. If you haven't ever attended one of our webinars, then please know that I'm experimenting today. So with that, let's do a little bit of housekeeping first. So first things first, we have a Q&A section in Zoom. And if you look down, probably the bottom of your screen, you'll see a double speech balloon with Q&A. If you have any questions, which I'm sure you will, as we progress through today's webinar, please put them in that Q&A rather than in the chat box. The chat box can get a little out of hand sometimes, and I can't keep tabs on it. All right, so use the Q&A. The other beautiful thing with the Q&A is that any questions that my colleague Anne answers by typing, you can copy them out of the Q&A. The chat box in a webinar doesn't work for copy pasting out of it. So, and I will be including some links in there, but the Q&A is a better place for your questions and you can copy the answers. So as I said, I'm doing something a little different today. We are going to test out doing a fully live presentation format for this webinar. Normally, we would play a recording. We have demo recordings of our webinars and they're, really professionally done. They do all the things just right. They don't run into any problems or hiccups or anything. So they're very smooth, but they're also a bit repetitive. So, and we've had a lot of changes in our user interface and things like that. So, we're going out on a limb. We're looking at doing some changes to our webinar presentations anyways. And I thought, well, let me be the guinea pig and see how you folks like this. Okay. Now, we do also get people from all different areas of WordPress in general. This particular webinar is hosted and presented through WordPress.com, which is a managed host for WordPress sites. Some of you might have self-hosted WordPress sites, and that's totally okay. A lot of the stuff we cover will still be somewhat similar. Things might be located in a bit of a different location. There might be some features that are unique to WordPress.com and you don't have them in a self-hosted site. So I'll try and point those out as we go, if I think of it. But just know that there are those two different environments. And there was actually, I didn't save the link. I am actually going to just pull up on my other screen here an article that if you are curious about the differences between a WordPress.com site and a self-hosted site, I'm going to pop this into the, no, that did not work. Let me do it this way. Okay, that's why I got a whole bunch of extra stuff in my link. Okay. Oh, it just did a search for me. Honestly, I tell you, live, right? Things go wrong when it's live. Okay, this is what the page looks like. I'm going to put that link into the chat box. Oh, I did it twice. There you go. Okay, struggling. Yeah, if you are at all interested in the differences between WordPress.com, WordPress.org, or more correctly, a self-hosted WordPress site, this is a fantastic article. It is long. It was written by me, but it definitely dives in deep on these differences. So be sure to check that out. All right, let's have some fun. Let's get started. So today's webinar, it is a Getting Started Website Building 101. And it is for beginners. And we're going to do a bit of a walkthrough of the high-level steps of starting a new website, but also, and I think possibly more importantly, where to find additional resources to help you along the way. A big part of what we do at WordPress.com is we teach. We guide you on how to do these things yourself, and we have a ton of resources available to help you with those steps. So because of the nature of a Getting Started webinar, there are so many things to cover. We're not going to be able to deep dive into the how-to on every possible option and feature. It's just not possible. I will try and answer your specific questions on things. Anne is going to be there. And I see actually another one of my colleagues has joined us as well, but it's a mystery person. I'm not sure who it is, which is okay. But the questions will be answered in the Q&A. And depending on how those questions go, I'm going to try and answer some of them live as well. We might run out of time to cover all of these topics. So like I said, I'm experimenting. Oh, it's Jerry that joined us. That's lovely. Hello, Jerry. All right, so we're going to try and work through these points and we're going to see how it goes. And I appreciate your patience as I am doing this 100% live and not scripted. So I have a slide deck to help me along the way. So let's just start jumping right in here. So the first thing we're going to talk about is creating your site, the initial setup, some domain options and plan options. So with WordPress.com, you can create any type of site, whether it's a business site, a blog, a store, like everything and anything you can create. And when you first set up a site, you will automatically be given a free domain that includes WordPress.com in it. And you can also add your own custom domain that doesn't have that WordPress.com in it. So I'm going to show you how to do that. And you can also get started with a free site and you can upgrade at any time. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this part because it is also something that changes over time as we constantly improve things and try to make the user interface more user-friendly. But let's have a little look here, okay? Whether you're starting for the very first time and you just landed on WordPress.com and don't have an account, or whether you already have a site, the process is similar. If you only have one site, it'll be down the bottom here in the left sidebar to add a new site. If you have more than one, you'll need to go into switch site to find that, okay? But in any of those three scenarios, so brand new, first time landing on WordPress.com, already have one site and clicking the add new site, or you have multiple sites and you're clicking the add new site, the process is going to be similar. And like I said, I'm not going to spend a lot of time in this, but the first thing you do is you choose a domain name and you can just choose whatever you want to start with. I'm just doing tests to demonstrate here. You'll be given some choices of a custom domain that you might want to pick from, and then you can choose to purchase that. If you upgrade and buy a paid plan, the first year of that domain will be free. It'll be included with the plan, and then it'll charge on the renewals. But you can just start with the free WordPress.com. Every time you're on this page, you will get this option. You just got to look for it, and you click select. Then you're given the option of our plans. Now, if you've been with WordPress.com for a while, you're going to notice that this is different to what it used to be. I'll talk a little bit about that in a moment, but you can choose between whichever plan you want. And I am going to note that we do have more changes coming to enhance these plans a little bit. I don't have the full details or timeline, but keep an eye out for that. You're going to see some additional tweaks and adjustments in the weeks to come. So you would pick your plan, and it's going to just kind of create a site in the background. You're then going to be given this workflow to choose how you want to get started. And this is going to determine where you get sort of dumped into the interface right from the beginning. If you choose skip to dashboard or start from scratch, you're just going to go to the main dashboard of your site. If you choose the right option, it's going to give you some on-screen prompts to follow. And the first place that you'll then land is in the block editor to create a new post. If you choose either the build or sell options, it's going to have some on-screen prompts to work through, and then it's going to drop you into our new site editor, which is a different feature again. And we're going to touch on all of this, okay? But I just wanted to give you a glance at this, that there are some on-screen prompts that will walk you through getting a new site created. And as I said, it's the same whether you are doing it in, as a very first time brand new, or you're adding a site to your account. You'll get these same options, okay? So I'm just going to skip to dashboard, and I'm going to actually go back to my demo site. All right, so from here, actually, I didn't want to do that because I want to show you something else. Let's pop back to that one that I just created there. So when you've created the site, as I mentioned, you have the choice of adding the domain. Now, you could have done it in the sign-up flow, but you can also come into upgrades domains and do it at any point in time. So you don't have to pick a custom domain at the start of it all. You might not know what you want. So from here, you can then search for a domain, you can add a domain, you can use a domain that you already own. And you will notice, like I'm on the free plan here, in order to set a custom domain as the primary domain, you do need to have an upgrade that allows for that, okay? So keep that in mind. And when you're doing stuff in here, always look for ways to get more information. So the question marks, okay? These are great little tool tips that are going to give you some information, some more than others. This one includes a link. So if we click this link, it's going to give us information about working with domains. And you can read through this. It'll then break it down and you say, oh yeah, well, I have a domain I already own. So here's my instructions on how to do that. And when you click that, it's going to open our support document that will walk you through all of the steps of that process. Okay. So there's that option. Now, if by chance you click on this and there's no link here, you can also go to the question mark if you're in a WordPress.com site and account, and you can search our knowledge base for a particular topic, okay? And that will pull up those support documents for you as well. So that is kind of a real quick overview on adding a domain, custom domain to your site. And as I mentioned, you can also change your plan at any time as well. So you can start with the free one and then you can upgrade later. You don't have to start with an upgrade right out of the gates. So you can do that later. If you have an existing site with WordPress.com, then when you go to this plan page, it's probably going to look different because you might have one of our legacy plans. So it's going to look like this. And the plan changes are quite recent. And I said, we're still kind of working through and massaging them a little, shall we say. All right. But if you have an existing site on an existing plan, you might get our legacy plans as being what your choices are. If you want to switch to our pro plan and be on the new plan structure, you can reach out to us at just through the question mark here, contact us, or wordpress.com/contact, and you can ask us to help you and what the steps are. I will give you a little hint. If you're on one of the lower plans like premium or personal and you want to upgrade to the pro plan, you can actually get to it by going to the plugins page. This is a neat little shortcut. When you go to plugins, there's actually just like a shortcut link here, and this will add the pro plan to your cart without you having to worry about the legacy plans. Okay, so quick little rundown. I know I'm kind of talking fast here. Deborah's not sure which legacy plan she's on. It'll tell you in the left sidebar. If you're in a WordPress.com account, it'll say the name of the plan right here. So the one I'm in right now says premium. If we go to this one, this is on our business plan. So it says business there. And if you're on a free plan, it's going to say free. If you're on the pro plan, it's going to say pro. I don't have a test site on the pro plan at the minute. So, but yeah, that's how you can tell which plan you're on. And then also when you go to plans, right? Depending on what shows here, if you're on a free site, it's probably going to show you the new plans. But if you have a legacy plan, personal, premium, business, it's going to show you these ones. Okay. All right. Let's move on for that. I didn't want to spend that much time on that. Any questions you have about the plans, domains, things like that, you can always reach out to our support and our happiness engineers to further help with that. If you're in a self-hosted site, honestly, none of this applies to you. Okay. You can still add custom domains to a self-hosted site, but you're doing that through your host, and you'll need to reach out to your host for the instructions and steps and process of doing that. And their plans are going to be different to ours. It's the hosting plan. It's just it's per host. Okay. All right, so let's now move on to exploring your site a little bit. So we've created a new site, and we want to sort of see what happens with that. So the very first thing that'll happen is the site will not be launched. It'll just be in your account, and it's going to show a coming soon page to all visitors. And that looks like this, more or less. It's just a plain page that says your site name and coming soon. Okay. So that will be the default for a new site that you've just created and you haven't launched. If we go, let's see. Oh, my apologies, my dog. Sasha. Sorry about that. Okay, so we've just created a new site. And yeah, my dog totally distracted me there. What am I looking at? The coming soon, right? I want to talk a little bit about launching your site. So when you come in here, and if you go to settings, general, the main one here, this is where you're going to see this launch site option. And there's a button to launch your site. And you can just click that and it'll launch it. Once you've launched it, you're going to get some privacy options. Now I want to keep this as a demo. So let's pop over to this one. And once the site is launched, this is what the privacy settings will look like. And you'll have the choice of leaving it as coming soon, public or private. So when you launch it, it's going to go to public. But if you don't want it to be public yet, you can flip it back to coming soon and click save. And then that coming soon page will continue to be what people see. Okay. You need to make a site public in order for search engines and people to be able to access it. And that's actually on my next slide here. It must be launched before visitors and search engines can find it. And once your site is set to public, anyone will have access to it if they have the URL, but it can take up to several weeks, sometimes even longer, for your site to show up in search engines after you launch it. So a lot of people are really afraid to launch their site because they're like, oh, it's not ready. I don't want anybody to see it. Well, frankly, getting traffic to your site is the holy grail of having a site. So I wouldn't be too concerned about clicking that launch button. And then if you want to make it coming soon, that's fine. At least the search engines can start indexing it and start processing the site a little bit. If you set it to private, then, or if you check off this discourage search engines, they're not going to index the site, and it's going to take even longer for your site to get into search engines. Okay. So keep those in mind as far as launching and recognizing it does take time to be found in search engines. And then, did I miss anything on this one? The demo content and previewing. Okay, so when you first launch the site, and on this one, I'm actually going to go back to this site, flipping back and forth here. When you first create a site, you are going to get a sample post, a sample page. Some might pull in more than others, kind of depends on the theme that you choose. But this is just a bit of demo content to get you started so you have something in your site to work with. You can preview your site by clicking up here, and then you're going to see what it looks like to the world, okay, which right now isn't much because we haven't done much. You can also preview it on different screen sizes to see how that might look on other screens. And then you can edit the content in these. You would just go into the post and edit it, or you can just trash the demo content and create a new one. But I do recommend that you have something in your site to work with when you first get started, because if you go in and delete all the demo content, there's nothing there. So when you preview a page or something like that, it's not going to look like anything because you don't have any content to demonstrate. Okay. So if you delete the demo stuff, put in something of your own that you can work with to see what it's going to look like. And I showed you the preview. Now there's other ways to preview as well, but this one kind of quick and easy up there. So now let's just, you know what, let me pause there for a minute. And I just want to, I know Anne's been answering a bunch of questions already. Does anybody have any specific questions around these topics of the launching and the creating and adding a domain? Is any of that confusing, or a specific question about that? I think we're pretty under control here, to be honest with you. Let me just see. Okay. Okay. All right. I think we will just carry on. You guys seem to be doing pretty good at asking your questions, and Anne and maybe Jerry are jumping in and getting those answered for us. And yeah, Mary Grace, you put a comment into the chat box. I have seen it, but there's other stuff that I've missed in there as well. Try to put your questions in the Q&A, please. That'll make it easier for us to address them. But to answer your question about the domain on Hostinger, that is that process of going, if you're in WordPress.com, go to upgrades domains, and then you're using a domain you already own. And this question mark will give you the support guide of all the steps involved with using a domain you own that you've registered somewhere else. All right, let's move along. Let's jump into changing the look of your site first. And, you know, I'm not really going in a sequential order of necessarily the steps you would do. I'm kind of hitting things in a higher level approach so that you know what the pieces are, okay? So let's have a look at changing the look of your site. And the overall design of your WordPress.com site is determined by the theme. And your theme determines whether you're going to be using settings within the customizer or the site editor. And you can also switch themes without losing your content that you have already created. Okay, so let's take a look at this. So if we go into Appearance Themes, this is a brand new site, and it by default pulled in one of our FSE themes because this is our newest feature and it's really quite amazing and powerful, but it does have a learning curve. So how you can tell what type of theme you have, it's not super clear, but one of the telltale signs is over under Appearance here. If you see this editor with the beta label next to it, that means you do have an FSE or full site editing theme active, okay? And that also means that the majority of your overall site editing, changing the look and feel, is going to happen in the site editor. You won't have the same kind of options in the customizer. So let's have a look at the customizer on this particular site. I should have opened that in a new tab. Let's do that. Let's close that one. Okay. So the customizer on a full site editing theme doesn't have a ton of options, okay? There are a few, because the one I'm in right now is a universal, so it's giving us a few pieces that we can work with. If we go over to this one, and we go into this customizer, this site is using the Rockfield theme, okay? And this is a hybrid theme. So when we look here, we're going to notice we've got additional options in our customizer words. Okay, so this is a universal theme that has a few options in the customizer. This is a hybrid theme that has more options in the customizer. Now, one more that I want to show you. Let's open this one, and I'm actually going to change this one to the 2022 theme. So let's activate that theme. And let's have a look at the customizer on this one. So this is a total full site editing theme. It's not a universal, it's not a hybrid, it is specifically for full site editing. And now we can see we have even less options, right? There's only 3 things here that we can even really work with. The universal theme has a few more options, a hybrid theme, or the classic themes have even more options, okay? So those are some telltale signs of what you're working in based on your theme. And you need to understand that so that you know where to go to make your changes, okay? If you come into your customizer and you don't have things like fonts and colors and all that kind of stuff, they're located somewhere else. And in this case, they're going to be in the site editor. Now, this is a getting started webinar, so I am not deep diving into full site editing. There are so many areas of things to tap into under this, and we just don't have the time to fully get into that. So just going to give you a sneak peek here. But we do have a webinar. There's one more, I believe, in May that's going to be this Wednesday, I think. I don't have my schedule up. Yes. Yeah, there's one more this Wednesday that'll be live. And then there's recordings of the FSC webinars that you can watch as well. But this is the site editor. Now, let me show you a bit of navigation around this, okay? If you're in the site editor and you go to this gear icon here, you're going to notice up here it says template or block. Okay, template is the telltale sign here, because when you are in the block editor, let's come out of this one for a second. So if we go into creating a post, this puts us into the block editor, and we're going to see that up here it says post instead of template. Okay, so that's a telltale sign of where you are in the site. Pages are similar when you've created a new page. Let's just jump past this a second. You're going to see page in this top toolbar. Okay, so over in this sidebar. In this sidebar, it's going to say template, page, or post, and that's an indicator of where you are because the editors all look very, very similar. Okay, if you are in the site editor, so we go back to appearance editor, this is where you will be making your general changes for the look and feel of your site and theme. And there's a lot of things to explore here. We're working with page templates, we're working with template parts, we're working with different styles for the typography, colors, and layout. So there's a lot of things to explore here. And what I recommend is, like I said, our webinars. I don't think I have that page open. So let's go here. On our webinars page, scroll down to the special topics for full site editing. And on that learn more page, you can register for the one more that we've got happening in May, or you can also watch the recording right there on the page. Okay, and this is going to be a really great way to get an introduction into all those things I just mentioned as far as full site editing goes. Okay, so over editing since. Okay. All right. So that is a really brief introduction to the site editor. And like I said, I don't have time to dig into it. We're almost at the half-hour mark already, and there's more things I want to cover with you and do some demoing. So that is the differences between the customizer and the site editor. And let me just show you a bit of a navigation approach here, okay? So what I'm looking at right now, this is the dashboard. Spend some time and go through these. Click on all of these options down the left and see what they do. You're going to find things under tools that give you more setting options. Under settings, there's different areas as well to dig into. So definitely dig through all of the different options down the left, but know that when you're seeing My Home and Stats, this is the main dashboard. When you are in the customizer, I've got it open, so let's just go there. That left sidebar looks different. Okay, it'll give you these different options, and you've got an X here to close. You're not seeing those options for stats and pages and posts and stuff. Okay, and it doesn't matter what theme you're on, that sidebar is going to look similar. It's just going to have different options available. Okay, so dashboard, customizer, then you have appearance, site editor, right? And that one is for kind of the replacement for the customizer, where you will design your theme, headers, footers, page templates, site styles, all those things. And then for posts and pages, they are both using the block editor. And this is where you start putting your content in. So you go to posts when you want to create a post, and you go to pages when you want to add a new page. Okay, so that's a real brief rundown of navigating in all the different parts. The one other part that is important to know is this avatar in the top right corner. That's going to take you into your account settings. Regardless of how many sites you have, this is your account where you can change your email address, your username, manage your purchases, security, all that kind of stuff. So you want to do a little bit of exploring by clicking on that avatar in the top right corner as well. My sites will always take you back to your dashboard. Okay, switching themes. This is a big one that people really struggle on. And I'm actually going to give you another resource. I should have had this one pulled up as well, but let me grab it. Now, this one here is this resource I'm going to give you in the chat box. This is actually a workshop that I did on specifically switching themes. And it is done in a self-hosted WordPress environment, but you'll find that in WordPress.com, it's actually even a little bit easier. Things tend to flow a little bit better just because of the nature of the interface. But that workshop will definitely show you a lot more as far as what happens when you switch themes. But I have a demo site here, and I'm just going to show you real quick what happens when we switch themes. So this site is using the Rockfield theme. And if we scroll down, we see this is what my homepage looks like in the Rockfield theme. Okay, it's fine. Now let's go to appearance themes, and let's switch to, I want to pick Russell because it's one I've already played with on here. This is a universal theme which uses full site editing. So if we activate this theme, I want to preserve my homepage content rather than pulling in the theme's demo content. And I'm going to activate. Now, when we preview the site, it's different. The header is the primary difference, but there's a few other things. Home is showing on here, which is a template setting. Some of the colors are a little bit different, but otherwise it doesn't look hugely different. And all of my content is here. These are my articles. I didn't lose them. Okay. This was the text that I had on the main homepage before I switched themes. So you don't lose any of the posts that you've published or the pages that you've published or even saved as drafts. You don't lose any of that when you switch themes. But sometimes when you switch themes, it might not look the same. You might have to configure your theme, especially if you go to a classic theme. So if you go to themes and you search classic, these themes are older themes and they have all kinds of different settings. So if we were to activate Lodestar, which is really going to make my site look different, Lodestar has a special homepage to it. And when we go to this, that homepage isn't automatically created because Lodestar works with panels. I have to go in and configure this theme if I want it to look like the demo. Okay, so just understand that when you switch, yeah, you know what, it could come out looking real different and it's made everything really big. I don't like the way it looks, so I have to fix that. But you can't. You would just start going through. In this one, you would go to the customizer because we don't have a site editor on this one, and you would just start making adjustments. But if you decide you don't like it, you can still go back. And if we go back to my original theme of Rockfield, we're going to notice that my site looks exactly as it did when I first showed it to you. Okay, so you can switch back and forth between themes, and I'm going to say like 98% of the time, it won't be a problem. There are always exceptions. There are always situations where something doesn't work quite right. Okay, and especially in a self-hosted environment, and especially if you're using third-party themes or plugins. Okay, those are the two factors that can really change how everything works when you're switching themes. But if you're in a WordPress.com site and you're on, especially on the free plan, you're going to be able to switch back and forth and probably not notice much difference other than if the theme has something special about it. Okay. So I hope that alleviates that sort of corner of things a little bit. Any specific questions on changing the look of your site? We know we've got the customizer to work with or the site editor, depending on the theme that you've chosen. And the theme is what's going to control things like the layouts that you have to work with, the site colors, what the default color palette is, fonts, things like that. But you can also customize all of those either through the customizer or the style section of the site editor. So many terms. So you can control all of that. You can play around with switching themes. What else do we have here? Okay, so we've got a question about adding a video to the front page. I'm going to get into content next. So can you mention again about the indexing process? Like if the site is launched as public for a few days and then turned to private in order to develop it more, does that help with the search engines picking it up? So I would recommend going to coming soon, not private, for starters. When you set a site to private, I can't demonstrate it on this because I'm logged in to this account, but it'll, instead of giving this coming soon page, it's going to be just like more like a login page, and it's going to say this site is private. You know, you need to request access or log in to view it. So I would recommend the coming soon option. I think it looks better when people land on your site and it makes more sense. They're like, oh, okay, they're working on it, right? Whereas that private access thing, I think it confuses some people sometimes. As far as the indexing process goes, if you're switching back and forth, if you are going to private or if you're turning off the search engine indexing, it's gonna delay things, right? Things are not instantaneous with Google. So when you set it to public, Google is not going to flock to your site and start indexing it. It's probably going to take them 4 to 6 weeks to even start looking at it. If you've had it public for a couple of days and then you switch it to private, yeah, no, they probably still haven't gotten to it, and it's still not going to trigger that process for you. Okay. So yeah, I would recommend going coming soon once you've launched, and just know, like, you're looking at weeks. And I've seen it take even longer with some sites as well. Google's indexing process really, I don't know it. I'm not a Google expert, but I do know that they do look at a whole bunch of different variables and factors with your site, including the quality of the content, how much content, how frequently it's getting updated. You know, there's a lot of different factors that come into play there. So keep that in mind. And I say give yourself as much runtime to get into the search engines as you can. It's a hard enough process as it is. Okay, Stephanie asked, can you explain parent and child themes? To be honest, I don't think I have a lot of time to get into that right now. But what I will say is if you go into our support documents, we do have information about child themes and how to create a child theme. The real short summed up version is that a parent theme is the main theme. That's the main infrastructure of a site. You create a child theme from that when you want to make changes to the theme without directly changing the parent files. And you really don't want to change parent files of a theme, because when the theme is updated, those changes are going to get overridden. Whereas when you pull in a child theme, then you update the parent one, you don't lose the changes that are in the child's theme. Oh, child theme. Okay, so that's kind of a short version of it. But I do recommend going into our support documents and reading more about that and how that process works. Okay. What themes are you just working with? So this one is Rockfield. I also used Russell. I quite like that as an FSE theme. So that was, things are jumping around on me here. Okay, so yeah, so that Rockfield, Russell, those are the main two I was switching between, but I also just randomly picked some as well. Like this customizer is for the 2022 theme, I believe I used. So I hope that helps. Let's have a quick scan before I carry on and jump into the actual editing content side of things. Can part of the website be private and part public? Not really. The site setting itself applies to the whole site, but you can set individual pages or posts to be private. Again, so this is a great place for this, is that you can, I think, just search privacy. So you got privacy settings. What about page? I suppose just under pages themselves. Oh, page visibility. There we go. That's what we want. Page and post visibility. This document here is going to talk to you about these different settings. So public, private, password protected on a per page or post basis. Okay, I'll drop that into the chat box for you. Any of the links I put into the chat box, you'll have to click on them to open them. You can't copy out of there, but that should help. I should have marked that where, okay. Okay, so that's that one. Just having a quick scan here. Okay, we've got about 20 minutes left. I'm going to leave my colleagues to the questions in the Q&A there. And just a side note to them, they were marking ones as answer live. That worked really well for me. So thank you for doing that. All right, so let's move on. I think we've covered enough on the general look and feel of your site. Yeah, so let's move on to content, and then I'm going to give you some additional resources of how to dig more into all of this. So adding content to your site. There are two main types of content in a WordPress site, and that's pages and posts, which I've kind of poked at a little bit here in this webinar already. But you find them over on the left: posts, pages. The short version of the difference is that pages are typically more static content. You would use them for things like your about page, your contact page. Your home page is often set as a page. And sometimes even your page where you're displaying your posts, you might create that as a static page and then use our blocks to put the posts on that, okay? So the pages themselves, you kind of set them up and you don't tend to change them a whole lot. They're not what you're going into to create new updates all the time kind of thing. Posts are your dynamic content. They're your articles, they're your news releases, your how-tos or educational material, all that kind of stuff. It's more time sensitive. It's the things that you're keeping your audience up to date on in a more dynamic manner. Okay, so I hope that makes a little bit of sense. But basically, yeah, static content for pages, dynamic content for posts. Now, when you are creating a new page, you have the choice of pulling in a page layout. And this is a WordPress.com feature. It is controlled by a plugin, and you can find that plugin on self-hosted sites. It doesn't always work properly. I've tested it on a few. Sometimes it works fine, other times not so much. So it'll depend on the theme. But if you're in WordPress.com, this is a really great way to get your pages started without having to figure out how do I lay this out, okay? These layouts put a whole bunch of pieces onto the page for you. And you can just, look at these little thumbnails to see what's in them. And you can go by a particular type of page. So if you know you want to create an about page, go to the about category here and look at the page layouts that are offered here for you to choose from and decide, which one you like the best as is. And then you just click it and it's going to drop all of that content directly into the editor for you. Now, remember, I'm in the page editor here. We can tell that up at the top of the right sidebar. So from here, once you're in either a page or post editor, which is our block editor, Now you can just start editing. So you would go to the image and you would hit replace and select one from your media library. You would start typing, your own text. My name is Tanya. Okay. And you can just replace the information that is included on these pages and edit it. So that's a really low barrier, easy entry point to get your content on the page without having to figure out how to lay this out. However, this list view is super handy because it's going to tell you what blocks are in place and how it's all set up. So you can see what pieces are at play here. And this one is being done in a media and text block, which gives us the image on the left. And then all of these other pieces have been added in on the right side. So it's almost like a column, but it's a unique block that specifically does this. You can also easily flip that if you wanted to with these settings up here. Now with all of the content, it doesn't matter if you're on a page or a post, your editor features are pretty much the same when it comes to your blocks. You're adding them the same way. This plus sign will give you all of the blocks to choose from here. You can go down the bottom. If you see the plus sign on the page, anywhere on the page, you can click that. You can search for blocks. You can add them directly from that plus sign. Again, page and post is the same. This is the block editor. This is how you add blocks. And when you add a block, every single block will have a toolbar that is unique to it, as well as settings down the right-hand side that are unique to this particular block. So this one here is an image block. It tells us, I've not even clicked on it here. It tells us up here that it's an image block. It does not want me to click on that. You can learn more. So if you click the learn more link, it's going to open the support document specifically for the image block. And if you click on this part of the link, it's going to give you a list of all of the blocks. And then you could go in and say, okay, well, geez, how does that cover block work? And it's going to give you the instructions of how to work with the cover block. And a lot of them have videos on how to do that as well. Okay, so those are, that opened in a new tab. Okay, so look for those learn more links as you're working through with these different blocks. When you insert, say, an image, so we'll pop this one in, you might see that some additional settings come available compared to when there was no image here, because now we can add our alt text, which is a really important feature on images. The alt text is two things. One, it's for accessibility. So anyone who's using a screen reader to navigate a website, that alt text is going to tell them what this picture is. So you want to be really descriptive in the alt text so that it makes sense for somebody using a screen reader. It's also a really good place to include a keyword for your search engine optimization features. The search engines do crawl the text that is in that alt text box, but do not use it to stuff keywords. Don't just throw a bunch of keywords in there that make no sense, because that defeats the purpose of the accessibility. You want people to be able to understand what this picture is based on the description. If you can organically work a keyword into that, great. Okay. So keep those things in mind. But then from there, you explore with the options. You can change the sizes. You can, what can we do here? We can do a duotone, change colors. Okay. Put like this overlay kind of thing on it. So many different options. So you just kind of want to play around with what the options are, or go to the article and read what the choices are of what you can do. Okay. One of the questions that I had seen was about adding a video. Again, it's just a block. So let's say I want to add a video before this picture. I can click on these three dots here. So sorry, backtrack a second. There's more options in there too. So make sure you're clicking anywhere you see a three dots, click on that to see what options there are. Insert before, and then you can click the plus sign to do a search. Or if you know the block that you want to pull in, you can also click the / and just type it. And then you can pop that in there, and depends on the block. So this one here is saying I need to upgrade to the Pro because I can't pick one from my media library. I can't upload videos unless I'm on the Pro plan, but I could insert a YouTube link. Okay, so you can insert one from a URL, Vimeo, YouTube, anywhere that it's hosted somewhere else. Okay. We do also have a YouTube block. So you could actually just search specifically for YouTube and then you'll just get the field to drop the YouTube URL in. Okay, so there's different ways like that. And again, going back to our knowledge base, if you search for videos, you're going to get a support document that talks about different ways of including video in your site. And then you can just click on these links to get the details. Okay. So let me have a look at my thing here. How off track am I? We've got about 10 minutes left. Okay, so I mentioned the page layout. So we touched on that. Also, yes, your content must be published before visitors can access it. So once you've created a page, you can see there, I don't know if you noticed, it said auto saving. So it'll do that periodically. You can also click the save as draft option when you want to make sure, have I saved this? So that'll show that it's saved. But right now it's just a draft and it's just sitting in my drafts until I publish it. So nobody can access it until you publish it. I've had some people where they've launched their site and they come in and they say, but when the public go to my site, it says nothing found, page not found. And the most common reason is that the homepage that has this homepage label is sitting under drafts. Okay, so really pay attention to whether your pages are under published or under drafts, so that you know whether the public can see them. Because if they're sitting in drafts, only you can see it when you're logged in. Yvonne, no, you can't. Yvonne asked, can I edit the text on the coming soon default site? No, that's just a default page. You could, if you were on a plan that allows for plugins, you could install a plugin that would allow you to use a custom coming soon plugin or maintenance mode and have a unique custom page for that. So that's an option, but with ours, it's just a default standard as it is. What else do we got here? Covered off that. How are you all feeling? As I mentioned at the very beginning, this was a huge experiment. I've used these slides as a bit of a guide. I've kind of noticed that maybe my order isn't perfect and I might need to rearrange that a little bit. We've covered a ton of information. And one of the things that we are thinking about doing is breaking this up because this is a lot of content for you to absorb. Whereas I think if we can break it up and just kind of focus on a few pieces in one webinar, then we can concentrate a little bit more. So I hope, I don't know, you're going to have to stay tuned. We're still discussing our options. But I hope this has been good. Yeah, breaking it up. Thank you, Rena. It came just through to the hosts and panelists, but Rena agreed that breaking it up would be great. Let's see here, Lisa, if your pages are in the draft folder, how do you get them out and published? Oh, you would just click on, so two ways. If you're in the editor for them, let's go to a draft here. If you're in the editor itself, then you have the publish button in the top right-hand corner here, and you would click publish and that would publish it. But also you can do it right from your list of drafts. So if you're in here and you go, oh, whoops, forgot to publish that, you can click the three dots and just click publish and it will go into it'll move it automatically. Well, let's just do it. I can publish this. It doesn't matter. This is a test site. All right. So it's telling me here, page published. It's kind of grayed out here, but it still sits there for a minute and then it goes away from my list of drafts. And now if we go over to published, it says a few seconds ago, this about page was published. Okay. Now, the other thing too to remember though, is that publishing your pages will not necessarily automatically add it to your site menu. And this was probably, oh no, I don't have one. Okay. So you'll notice I have no about page in my menu at the top here. So just because I published an about page doesn't mean that it's going to add it into the menu. And that's one topic we didn't dig into here. And it's a tricky one. So if you are on a hybrid theme or a classic theme, you are 100% controlling your menu in the customizer. So this is the Rockfield theme. This is where you build out your menu. This is where you create new menus and set the locations. If you're using full site editing, you have to do it in the site editor and it works differently. If you're using a universal theme, So like this one, we do have a menu option here, but understand that right now on a universal theme, if you have the site editor access and you have menus in your customizer, they are not properly 100% communicating back and forth. You can create a menu in the customizer, go over to the site editor and apply that menu in the site editor. That will work. But if you edit the menu in the customizer, it will not update it in the site editor. And if you create it in the site editor, it's not going to add it to the customizer. And same with the editing. They don't cross communicate back and forth for updates. Okay, so keep that in mind. Universal FSC, which one is the best? Rizia, I don't know. There are so many, and I've only played with maybe half a dozen of them. I can't answer which one would be the best. But full site editing itself is very powerful. Like, honestly, I think any of them would be fine. You can do so much in all of them. Okay. For beginners, Yvonne is asking, do you recommend hybrid or universal? You know, I would say it depends on you. I shouldn't have closed that. Oh, well. I think it depends on you, because it's going to be a case of how much are you willing to play? Okay. The hybrid theme is probably easier in some regards because you don't have to deal with the site editor, which has so many possibilities and templates and moving parts, but it's also restrictive. You know, if you pick a hybrid theme, the way this header is at the top is how the header is, and you're probably not going to be able to do much about that. CSS, and you know, if you know how to use CSS, but if you're a beginner, you probably don't. So you're kind of stuck with what you get, right? So I guess it depends on how concerned you are about the limitations that might come with a hybrid theme or a classic theme versus the power that comes with full site editing, and whether you're willing to take the time to go through and investigate and learn how those features work. Now, on that note, and I should have done this partway through, I'm going to give you guys a list of links. And this actually ties into this page of how to get additional support. Okay, because we're like right near the top of the hour now. There's many ways to get support. You can email us if you're in WordPress.com. You can go directly to the contact page. You can use the question mark as I've shown you. But we also have all of these resources, and I'm going to drop these into the chat box. You're going to have to click those links. You can't copy and paste that message, but click the links to open them up and then save them as bookmarks. And our knowledge base, #1 place to go. I really do believe that we have a ton of information in there. The full site editing has got a lot of a big breakdown of the content and how to work. There's videos. It breaks it down. Site editor, template editing, theme blocks, styles. Okay. Shows you the webinar we have available, and you can access that there as well. Okay. So definitely use that to learn about this. We've got tutorials in here as well. And this page is going to give you a bunch of different types. There's sort of samples, like, do you want to build a photography website? Well, check out this tutorial. It just might help you get to where you want to be a little quicker. Okay. We also have 2 YouTube channels. The Automatic one is Automatic is the parent company of WordPress.com, and it's got all kinds in it. It's been around the longest, but we have recently launched a WordPress.com YouTube channel, and this is very specific to how-to videos, and you can see some of them they're real short little clips, just how to do this piece. Okay, so this is a great way to get the breakdown of a lot of the stuff that we covered in the webinar today. And there's a bunch on full site editing in here. There's recordings. Some of the webinar recordings are in here. Some of them are also in the Automatic webinars playlist. We're still kind of getting the two synced together. But this is definitely a great resource if you're a visual learner and you really want to dive into the video aspect of how to do some of these things. Okay, so that is definitely a fantastic resource. We do also have additional webinars, which I showed you briefly we scanned past them real quick there, but our daily webinars on getting started, making money, blogging, WooCommerce, and we have them available in Spanish. So investigate those. Today's Getting Started webinar, it was totally off the rails from what we normally do. So feel free to join another one and see the more standard process to approaching it. But we are looking at making some changes to the presentation of our webinars as we move along here. And then 2 more quick things, because we're at the top of the hour. I'm going to touch on this one first. Built by WordPress. We have 2 options if you just want somebody to build your site for you. You know what? Sorry, I'm sidetracking. Sharon just asked to make the list. This is perfect. Okay, so the list of links that I put in the chat box, you cannot copy them out of the chat box, but I'm answering Sharon's question in the FAQ right now. Just sent that. That should show up on your end, and you can copy from the FAQ. So I hope that helped, and thank you for asking that question and giving me that opportunity. All right, so back to the Built by WordPress. We have 2 options. The Built by WordPress program is for more robust sites, like a full e-commerce site and education, online courses. I don't know, dream it, they can build it. The second one, Do It For Me, is a lighter version. So if you're just looking for a more basic site, maybe an author's website or a small business where you just want it more like a brochure, homepage, contact page, and about page, right? That's a smaller service. It's a little bit cheaper as well for getting started. Okay, so those are those 2 options. If you want somebody from our side of things, it's not the happiness engineers per se, but we have a team that will do this work for you if you would like to. The last one I want to touch on is our courses. And this, I probably have it open. I've got so much stuff up here. I'm just going to click the link because it's quicker, because I have a lot of tabs open. But our courses, we just recently revamped all of this. And I'm actually the courses coordinator. So I've been pretty heavily involved in this process. And we now have 3 courses, and they are now all free. So you can join any of these courses, no cost to get into them. You can go into all of them if you want. We have a new community component, which you can see up here once you're logged in. I'm not logged in at the minute, so we don't have access to it. But when you're logged in, you'll be able to access our community where you can ask questions and interact with other students. The blogging course has been completely rewritten and revamped. We took the 2 previous ones, merged them together, and added new content. The search engine optimization course is brand new, never been offered before. Podcasting is still the same course, but we are working on some updates in the weeks, maybe months to come. It takes a while to update some of these. So definitely check out our courses. They're very dear to my heart. All righty. One more thing I do want to mention is, and I included it in the list of support links, I think. No, I didn't. Let me pop this one in. If you have a self-hosted WordPress site, then pop that into the chat box. Okay, I just see another comment in the chat box. Quick helpful note for future reference, the word automatic only has 2 T's, not 3 T's. I'm not sure where you've seen 3. There's 2. The word automatic only has 1 T, but our company name for automatic has 2. Okay, and yeah, that's why, because our CEO, Matt, so we included the 2. Anyways, oh goodness, I just need a drink of water here. This T is the 3rd letter. Oh, I see what you're saying. 3, yeah, okay. No, this is a company name, and the word itself does have 3 T's in it. Okay, so WordPress.org /support. This is where you want to go if you have a self-hosted WordPress site and you need help. There's support documents, there's forums that you can get into, there's a learn section where they have their own workshops and some courses and different things that you can access there. So if you are on self-hosted, this is a really good resource for you. We do not mind helping you over on .com as best we can. but we don't have access to your site. So you can't reach out to our happiness engineers for site specific help. Okay, so just keep that in mind. But this is a fantastic resource for that. And I think I have covered it all. I think we lost a few people along the way. I've gone past the hour and we've lost a few people, but that's okay. Thank you all for attending and for bearing with me on a very wing it kind of approach to doing a live webinar. I've had a lot of fun with this. I've learned a lot in the process myself. So I think it was a good experiment. And based on the comments I'm seeing, I think it was a success. It seems like everybody kind of liked the approach. So that is awesome. I appreciate it. I'm going to leave the screen up for a little while longer. The Q&A, you'll be able to copy and paste out of that. You can click on links in the chat if needs be. Brian, you're welcome. I'm glad it was a great introduction. Henrietta, same. Oh, Lacombe, yeah, you're not far from me. So yeah, and the Caribbean, oh goodness. Oh, Dan, you're welcome. Okay. All right, I'm going to turn off my video and audio, and I'll leave the screen up so you can see these resources and you can access them through the Q&A to copy and paste as well. And then after a couple minutes, it'll just shut down. All right. Have a wonderful rest of your day and a wonderful week. And I hope we'll see you on another webinar in the future. Bye for now.